Hi everybody, Ryan Ballengee with Golf Newsnet here. I'm back with a new set of irons to review for you, and this time they are from Bridgestone. And you might be thinking, what? Bridgestone still makes irons? They do! They need to! And in fact, they've ushered in a new era, bringing Dan Murphy back to run the whole show. And this is kind of his first launch under his watch. And this is a bit of a change for Bridgestone. Over the last couple of years, they've kind of had two separate lines. So they've kind of had the Tour X, Tour B line of irons for better players, and then they've kind of had the JGR line for game improvement or super game improvement. And some of those irons have been a little out of the mold of ordinary, with extraordinarily wide soles, almost kind of a full hybrid set in some cases, borderline full hybrid set. And a lot of folks didn't necessarily take to them extremely well. And that's in part because there wasn't a whole lot of marketing behind them, and there also, frankly, just wasn't that much push to find them in places like large retail, big box stores. And so Bridgestone has kind of struggled to gain market share. But they're making a big push with this new line, kind of bringing the Tour B and the JGR lines together now to be the Tour B JGR line of clubs. So this is a full bag of clubs. It's a driver, it's a fairing wood, it's hybrids, it's irons, two different sets, and it all kind of comes together under this one banner. And so the folks at Bridgestone came to me and asked if I would be interested in trying them out. Now these are generally built for players who are mid-handicap, maybe a little bit higher. So maybe it's a little bit out of my range, and so kind of parsing through the different clubs on offer, I said, well, I probably won't go with the driver, probably too much offset for me. I'll try a fairway wood, we'll see what kind of offset it has. We'll try a hybrid, see what kind of offset that has. And then between the two iron sets, there's the HF1 and the HF2. The HF1 is kind of super game improvement, not quite on the end of the original JGRs where they were almost all hybrids, but they have really wide soles and they're designed to be super forgiving and go really far as you can possibly hit them. But that's not for me. But the HF2s looked like they might be something I could go for. A little bit of offset, not too much offset. A more classic look, a little bit thinner top line, smaller sole, less visible features, really clean look. Let's give it a try. So they sent them to me. And when they did the public reveal on September 12th, we filmed these components of this review, having played this club probably about 8 different times in an actual round of golf. And then going on the range on the 12th to go ahead and just figure out what the numbers said. That's how I tend to review clubs. I go play with them, almost sight unseen, pull them out of the box, pull all the plastic off, put them in the bag, and go play 9 or 18 with them. Just see what happens, see how they feel, see how I react to them. Because that's more important to me, playing on the golf course, than hitting them on the range. I don't hit on the range that often. I like to just play golf. So if I like playing golf with them, I'm probably going to like the numbers, and vice versa. And so the first time I went out and played with them, I was kind of shocked, to be truthful with you. I don't normally hit 9-iron 152 yards, but I do with this set. I don't normally hit 6-iron 200 yards, but I did with this set. And so the initial impressions kind of blew me away, and I figured, well, something's going to catch up to me. There's something I'm not going to like here. And I never really did. I love this set of irons. The HF2s are really, really good. And I played 4 competitive rounds with them. First real competitive tournament played in 6 years. The Myrtle Beach World Amateur Handicap Championship. I can't tell you the number of players I play with in a gross flight. So these are basically scratch players, if not better than scratch players. And a number of the 12 people that I played with over those 4 days asked me about these irons. They thought they looked great, looked clean. They wanted them in the bag. And I said, well, they're not available for the public yet at the time. And now they are. And so the design factor here is they're, at Bridgestone, bringing in game improvement technology with a forged blade that looks really good. I mean, it looks super clean. You can kind of tell there's badging, but it's very muted. It all kind of blends together. The numbering on the bottoms of the clubs is modern, not too aggressive. It's very nice. The offset, it ranges, but it's in about the 4 millimeter range, particularly on the longer irons. So it's perceivable. I mean, you know that there's offset, but it's not like a super game improvement where it's just kind of like that. and you would never play in your right mind if you were a better player. And so playing, like I said, eight rounds or so with these so far, I've noticed I'm about a club longer. And that's about a club longer than what I'm hitting when I play with the Mizuno MP18 MMCs, which are kind of my go-to iron. They're extremely consistent, the MP18, and so I kind of base it off of that because I want consistency over distance. But it's about a club difference. I mean, I can hit a 9-iron about 150 yards if I want with the HF2s. I can't do that with the MP18 MMCs. I could probably nuke it to 145. So that's about a 5-yard difference there. With the 6-iron, when I'm hitting the MP18 MMCs, I hit them between 185 and 190. Let's say 190 on the high end. With the 6-iron and the HF2, I can get it about 200 yards. Again, the gap is a little bit wider. And the crazy thing is, looking at the lofts of the irons, they're really not that different. I mean, 1 or 2 degrees here or there, plus or minus. So pretty aggressive lofting from the company, from Bridgestone, on these HF2s in the longer irons, I would say. But it even down to the 9-iron, maybe a little bit aggressive by 1 or 2 degrees, but not that aggressive. I mean, you kind of pull back. They give you a pitching wedge and an approach wedge, or a gap wedge, depending on what you want to call it. That's a 50 degree and 44 degree. So those are pretty reasonable. I mean, that's kind of what you've expected to see in a modern set. They come 5 to pitch, or 5 through the gap. You can get the 4-iron for extra, but the 5 through gap's $900. I mean, it's very reasonable. Feel is really good. It's 1020 carbon steel, so it's forged. It feels good. You get good feedback off of it, and extremely forgiving. I mean, I've hit a number of absolute clunkers with these clubs, and they still seem to go reasonably far. I mean, they still seem to hit close enough to the target where I can either chip or putt. And for me, that's awesome. That's exactly what I need. I don't get to play as often as I used to, so when I want to go out there and play, I want to have the chance to hit a lot of greens and have putts for birdie. And if that means it's a longer putt for birdie, well, that's better than chipping. If it means instead of hitting from deep rough, I'm just chipping just off the green, cool. That's awesome. I like the look of them. As I mentioned, the head shape, very nice. I also like the touch on the other end with the yellow grip. I haven't played with the yellow grip before. It's not distracting. Obviously, your hands cover it up. It's a cool look, kind of stands out, gets people talking about it. But the overall design is going to catch people's eye because the head is just so clean for a game improvement iron. It's impressive. I mean, it really is impressive. And the distances, again, are kind of outrageous. I would compare the distance more accurately from the HF2 irons to the Wilson C300 Forge, which we've done a review of as well. And they're kind of comparable. I mean, they're right in there 2 or 3 yards instead of that 5 to 7 or 8 yards per club with the MP18s. The forgiveness on the MP18s is through the roof with the MMCs compared to the regular MP18 or prior Mizuno Players cavity back irons. But the distance just isn't comparable compared to this HF2 and the C300 Forge. And part of that comes from what the company has called a reverse L behind the face of the iron. And so behind the face of the iron, they've cut a very small, almost imperceivable slit between the face and the sole. And then that allows them to put in this kind of polymer material that takes the shape of a reverse L. So it kind of follows the line of the face and then back up the sole a little bit. And that's for a little bit of kind of ball speed development. That's also for acoustics primarily. You're not going to see it. I mean, you kind of notice it maybe barely that it exists because of the way the cavity is cut in the back, but you otherwise wouldn't know about it unless someone told you. And so you have this clean package that goes a long way, and it's just a good iron. I mean, if you can kind of work past the little bit of offset, if you're very sensitive to offset, you may have a problem with this, I guess, but you probably wouldn't notice. And even if you're a good player, you can lay it open and still get what you want out of it. Often I find myself doing that. If I want to hit a certain type of shot, I just lay it open a little bit. Makes me feel a little bit more comfortable trying to work the ball with it. Yeah, for a $900 set, 5 through that approach, that's a good deal. And then you can add on the 4-iron. It is only right hand. So I'm sorry for you lefties. Everything else is lefty, but you apparently can't get a 4-iron. But maybe you're not playing one. Maybe you're playing a hybrid. If you're in this line, if you're in the Tour B JGR line, you're probably playing hybrids as it is. You're probably borderline to have a 4-iron. You probably have a 4 hybrid. I did try the hybrids. They're long, but they are absolutely shut. I mean, they are not designed for a better player. I want something that lays basically square at address, if not a little bit open if I can do it. These are not that. So I kind of have to grip super strong and kind of guide it in there to get it to go straight. But they're long. They're very long. But that's a turnoff for me. 3-wood, also very long that I tried. I've tried a 15 degree. They've got, I believe, a 15 and 19 degree in the series. I'm just kind of tacking this on because I'm trying it. I'm not going to do a separate review with it. But same kind of deal. Lays pretty shut, so it could be a hook machine for a lot of people if you're a better player. But if you're someone who wants that, if you want that kind of offset, they're pretty long too. I mean, they've done extremely well with these clubs. The fairway wood is, I would say, probably about not quite as long as some of the longest I've ever hit, and in part that's because I just kind of can't get around on the idea of having a totally shut look at address and have to go super strong. But it could keep up with kind of some of the 3-woods I've used in the past. Most recently, like an M2, was very, very competitive, I would say. But the focus of this review is on the Tour B HF2 irons, and they are worth a look. I mean, again, the price point, not bad. A little bit cheaper, maybe, than you would get from another major manufacturer. So a little aggressive on the pricing. $900 is not bad. You're going to get out the gate, you're going to get a really solid, good golf club. And I'm not used to saying that about Bridgestone irons in recent years. I've used them maybe 10 years ago and really had a great experience with them. But then they kind of went out into the desert a little bit, focused on golf balls. For a while, they just pulled golf clubs out of the American market, North American market, which was crazy. And now they're back with something I think you can look at if you're a player, maybe in that 4 to 5 range all the way up. You can kind of go beyond that, depending on what your preference is. If you're in the HF2s, maybe in that 15, 16 range, I think you're going to feel really comfortable. Maybe even in the 20 range, you could feel comfortable hitting these clubs. Just kind of depends on how you feel about offset, how you feel about distance. All those things that kind of have to be a consideration. But overall, I'm extremely impressed by these clubs, and I will be gaming them. I'm going to put them in the rotation and see how they do. So we'll come back with more information on them over time, but the initial impressions after 8 rounds, some range time, some time with a launch monitor, these are legit. They're for real, and you should give them a try. So head over to bridgestonegolf.com if you want to find out more about them, if you want to get to a fitting day, wherever you may be, whether it's a golf club or whether you go to a retailer as well. But I would start there, try to find a retailer around you. They'll give you that best information over at Bridgestone's website. Until next time, I'm Ryan Ballengee saying thanks for watching.